Eric, nice to have you on the podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you very much for having me.
No, you're very welcome. It's good to have you on. Yeah, you sent me an email with like a description of kind of what you do. So you kind of you're in the military at the minute. You've been serving for around like 16 years,
Yep.
and I see that you've kind of created this kind of project where you help young people between the ages of like 17 to 30, and you run different projects and leadership programs, development programs, and you help within the community. Um,
Yep.
how did you kind of like come about setting that up? And you also mentioned as well you kind of you know um, had combat you combated moments of like uh, alcohol, jail, drugs, and you help people and who kind of have experienced that as well.
Yeah. So I mean, to be honest, right? I could start really early on in my life. I grew up in a broken home. I grew up in the area of life where it was like just completely torn. Um, Alcoholic parents, alcoholic grandparents, and I was living that life. Like I was living the life of just partying, kind of not really caring what tomorrow brought, not really putting my head on my shoulders. Uh, there was one point where I was kicked out of my house when I was 17. And I remember, I was still in high school. I was living in the back of my car, and I said, I got to change my life, right? So I'm 17 years old, living this weird life of just being homeless in a sense, right? And I said, I'm going to change my life, and I started a business. And the first business I started was a mobile detailing business. I went out, took all my life savings, all $1,000 of it, bought a truck, bought all the gear and the equipment, and I just kind of went door to door, knocking on people's doors, saying, "Hey, listen, I'll wash your car for $50." Just kind of learning how to just live life and put my mind to something to where I can make money and live. I did that for about 5 years. Now, mind you, in that 5 year lifespan, between the age of like 18 and 23, I moved back in with my mom. We reconciled. We did a few things. We sealed that relationship. But I continued living the life of alcohol, continued living the life of going out and partying and going to clubs, and just every dollar that I made from my business went back to a community that I shouldn't have been in to begin with, right? And it was kind of crazy because I did very well for myself. I was making, as an 18-year-old kid, I was making almost like $70,000 a year cash, in 1998 as an 18-year-old. So you look at that number now, it's well what kids are making today, on Instagram, just selling
Yeah.
stuff, right? It's crazy. So, that's what I initially did. And then finally I said, I need to do something different. So I joined the military. But when I joined the military, it wasn't like, you automatically don't get set out of your ways. You learn a new institutional way of doing business. You learn a new institutional way of thinking. However, you're still your own person, right? So I still struggled with, my self-identity. I still struggle with who I was, how to love myself, right? I struggled with how to love myself. I couldn't do it. I was always looking for people to love me for, being someone who I wasn't. I was trying to manipulate people to think of me as some sort of like grand person walking around. I would go back to where I'm from. I'm originally from Long Island, New York, and I would go back home, my uniform on, and think I was, the gift to everyone around. And I always slip back into whether it be a substance to fill my heart up with a falsehood or just whatever. So then it just years and years and years pressed by. And then finally back in 2016, it was really when I identified my true self. Now, mind you, right? A lot of things happened between 2004 and 2016, right? I got married, I had children, I excelled really quickly in the military ladder, and life really was. I was probably at a mountaintop. I was on a mountaintop at the time, and it literally hit me to where I got brought down and struck to my knees, that I was not living the life that I needed to live. Me myself as a person, I'm a faithful man, and I do follow, you know, the word of Christianity, right? So that's who I am. But it didn't come to pass until 2016, right? In 2016, my wife and I, we were talking about getting divorced. Now, at this time, I had 4 children. And she handed me a book from a guy named Rick Warren, and it was called The Purpose-Driven Life. And I was like, yeah, I'll read it. And she said to me specifically, she goes, hey, if you don't read this book by the time you get back from school in 13 weeks, we're getting a divorce. And I was like, yeah, whatever. You know, I blew it off. About halfway through that 13-week period, there was a hurricane that hit Florida. So I went to Virginia where my wife was living at the time. And she asked me, she said, are you reading that book? And I was like, nope, not reading the book. And she goes, remember what I said to you? You got 7 weeks left. Just remember that. And I was like, okay. So I'm driving back to Florida now. It's a few days later. Hurricane passed through. There was no place to sleep. Every single hotel was taken up from everybody that got evacuated for the hurricane. So I said, I'll just sleep in the back, you know, I'll sleep in the back seat of my truck, you know, get 3-4 hours sleep and then I'll continue on driving. So I stopped at this rest stop, right? And I stop at this rest stop. It's 2:00 in the morning on October 10th. And I go to sleep, right? I wake up a couple hours later and excuse me if I get emotional, right? It's
no,
pretty,
it's fine. No,
still
no,
hits,
it's
right?
fine. No, it's fine.
But I get out of my truck, right? And I close my door, and as I close my door, a man came up to behind me and he tried to kill me, right?
Sure.
As he tried, it was literally like going through the motions of killing me. I hit my knees, I screamed. There was a lady in the car next to me, and she jumps out. She goes, sir, are you okay? And I look at her, and I realized it was my own self. I had this literal experience where I was being murdered by myself. The pain was there. The pain was real. And I couldn't figure it out, right? So I go into the bathroom. I get out. You know, I wash my face. I get back in my truck. And as I'm driving, I just hear, you have been officially changed, Eric. Stop everything you're doing. You have been changed. Didn't know what it meant. Got back to Florida. Read the book. Right? I got home. I looked at my wife and I said, I think I had this crazy experience where my faith just took me over. I said, from here on out, I'm completely changed. I'm healed. From that day that happened, mind you, I had alcohol stored in my room. I got home. I sniffed a bottle of alcohol. I threw up. Couldn't smell it anymore. I still, to this day, I cannot smell alcohol. It makes me sick. And my wife didn't believe me. She goes, I appreciate you reading the book, but I still don't believe you. I said, okay, you'll see. A year went by. I dove into my faith. I dove into a local church. I dove into everything that really takes the truth about what Jesus is, right? And I applied it to my life. And in 2017, right, this was October 10th of 2016. In all of 2017, I got advanced at work. Life was on such a high note. And then boom, 2018, January comes across. And again, I get another punch in the gut. I get told at work I'm being demoted for something that occurred in 2016, right? This was the year, 2016 was the year that I went through every single negative thing in my life, but I still did not admit it. I still did not take responsibility for it, and I still did not take accountability for it. So in 2018, it was January. They said, hey, did these things occur in 2016? I said, yes. They said, we're going to demote you, and we're going to send you somewhere else. And I said, all right. Took full responsibility. And on that day, I launched OvercomeHQ. The day that I actually got demoted, I launched it. And I said, you know what? If I could take the lessons that I've learned in this life and take full responsibility of who I am, I can easily help others see and walk through that, whether it be through faith, whether it be through life, career, leadership, whatever the case may be, because the experiences that I've had apply to almost everyone. It gives me this tool to be empathetic. It gives me this sense of knowing what people go through, but I also knew I needed to go from there, right? So I launched OvercomeHQ to where we really, our mission is to lead, inspire, and drive people to become a better self. And I use that now as a platform to target the kids and the young adults, 17 through 30, right? I'll work with anybody that is struggling, period. Male specifically. I'll work with anybody. And I say that because obviously as a male myself, who struggled with things like this, when you bring a female into the equation, things can get gray. So I don't support females like that. Now, mind you, if I'm doing a symposium or if I'm doing an event, yes, right. But one-on-one specifically, I deal strictly with young men, young leaders, people that maybe you're struggling, or even if people that go, hey, listen, how can I overcome this challenge, right? So that's what I work with. So in 2018, I said, you know what, I'm going to change all of this. And I started this program. I also, during that time, was an equal opportunity advisor. I deal with race relations. I deal with equal opportunity when it comes to all aspects of it. So whether it's based on age, gender, sex, sexual orientation, I deal with sexual harassment. I've dealt with, and I work really closely right now with suicide prevention, right? These are all things that I work with because I noticed that going through what I went through, it helps me now relate better to people, right? So say there's a young man who is, of a different race, and they're like, hey, I'm struggling with this. Being someone who's understanding and objective to those things, I can easily work with them and say, hey, listen, I don't understand what you're going through, but I know exactly what it is that you're going through on what it looks like on this or that, right? And I deal with people like that now all the time. I deal with so many individuals that, national origin, for instance, right? You being from the UK, right? If you would have come over here and people would say you sound funny, right? Like, you talk weird, or you say cheers and we don't get it. It's like, listen, that's who they are. That's simply who they are. It's the way they speak. That's who they are based on their culture. So don't judge them based on that. Judge them based on who they are through action, right? So these are the things that we kind of work with. And just over the last few years of doing this, I launched a thing called the Culture of Excellence. And the Culture of Excellence basically takes an EO approach to leadership. It takes an EO approach to life skills and life leadership, and how to approach careers in an EO mindset, right? So that's kind of what we do now, right? And when I say me, I really mean me. It's just me. I do have an army of people behind me that will support me with assets and networking and all that stuff. But last year's matter, I worked with a 21-year-old college student who had a significant drug and drinking problem, but he was also a race director for an organization out here called Terrain Race. It's like a Spartan race, right? I know they have those over there. So I worked with him and I coached him through a season, right? I'm not one of those coaches that'll be like, you need to stay with me for a year. Stay with me for a moment. Let me help you. And then from there, it's like, you grow a bond, you grow a connection, you move on. And if you feel comfortable, you got other issues, call me back. It's who I am, right? But to touch back on the Culture of Excellence, I take now leadership, EO, suicide prevention, what are some mentorship programs, and through this process and through this program, what we do is we take teams of individuals, we grow them in their specific field, and then from there we kind of just we set them loose into where they need to go, what they want to do, how they want to do it, right? So for instance, if we talk about mentoring, I'll work with a group of, like, a small group of people. So say for instance, like you yourself, you got 3 or 4 people that don't know much about mentoring. What does it look like? I'll take that small group and we do mentorship like this. And I've developed hundreds of PowerPoints, hundreds of hours of just conversation. And we just have the conversation. How do you mentor someone? Really, that's a question. How do you do it? Well, you mentor someone by understanding them, being empathetic, talking to them. Well, how do you coach someone? the same way, right? But the difference is when you're mentoring someone, you're showing them an expert way of doing business in something that you're an expert in. Coaching someone is helping them see and reach the goals or the mindset of the potential that they're trying to achieve and reach. So though they're the same kind of approach, they're two totally different fields, right? So for instance, right, you do podcasts, right? That's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
You can mentor someone on how to do a podcast. You've done it, right? But can you coach someone, which this isn't for you, right? But can that same mentor coach someone if they don't know how to set goals and achieve them? Probably not, right? Because we don't know. So it's kind of like those. We take those things, we separate them, we break them down to the bare bones, and then we build them up. And then what we do overall is that we take that all of those small groups, and we bring them underneath one umbrella. So then I go, hey, listen, we're about to launch a new program. I need EO there, and I need mentors there. Those two groups go, and then they execute, right? So that's kind of all of that in a nutshell is kind of what Overcome is and what we do. But I mean, it's just so much more than just right now, though. Like for instance, right? Everything I just said, right? To include me going to school full time to get my master's in divinity to become a chaplain, right? To include launching mission work at a local community, right? So Overcome eventually will become mission work for the local community with someone who is certified, registered, licensed to execute the same plans. That's really it. Like that's what we're doing. That's what we're trying to do. And in the back of my heart, my mission is to bring. People get scared when you say things like religion. So I don't talk religion. I talk about like my faith. I talk about Jesus. Sorry, right? That's who I talk about. Actually, I'm not sorry. Let me just say that. But that's who's held. Like, friend, I could even go this far. We'll talk about answered. When we pray for things and we get them answered. I'm right now in the middle of purchasing a brand new home on 9 acres of property, which is going to be where we do our mission work out of. So we'll hold summer camps and everything else. The lady who we're buying it from, when we initially started this talk and this conversation, one of the things she said to me was, well, what do you do? I said, well, I'm going to school to become a chaplain. I'm also in the military. And she goes, I don't want to sell this house to anybody other than Christians, because we know that what you're about to do here is going to be work and, your hands moving his word. And I said, sure, let's do it. Right. Well, just today I got a phone call and we actually closed on the property in about 10 days. And I just got a phone call. She's like, move in now. Don't worry about it. And I was like, excuse me? She's like, yeah, I'm already moved out. Just move in now. It's fine. Oh, and by the way, since we don't close and you're not going to have a place to stay because you got to close on your other house, you could stay with us. Now, I say that's an answered prayer because we've been stressing at our house on how we're going to close on the house that we currently live in, not have a place to stay for a couple of days with all of our property and all of our stuff. And how are we going to close on the last day and then move in less than a week? How can we do that, right? Well, we just had that answered by move into my house, stay there the night before. It's fine. I can't answer, that can't be anything other than, and it's just crazy on how all of this stuff works, right? And, hopefully the people, and I'll say this just to be transparent, for years I was a non-believer. I was an alcoholic for 36 years. I was a drug addict for 36 years. But when there was nothing left and I essentially died on the day that I died on October 10th and I became new, all I can say is that it's real. And everything that's happening now is because we've all been put here for something greater. And when I say we, I literally mean that. Every single person has been put here to be part of a mission that we may not even understand that we're part of yet. you know. But when you see it and you hear it and you know it, like for instance, you do mindset,
Yeah.
changing mindsets and all of this stuff. That's why you're here right now, right this very afternoon. That's exactly why you're here, you know.
Yeah.
And with that, you are impacting and changing lives. And with that changing of lives, you're going to do nothing other than make people better to ensure that the community that you're in and the life that we're living, those individuals can make a greater impact for all of the people that they're near and around. So, I mean, that's really it. That's Eric. That's Overcoming in a nutshell. And, do I do a whole bunch of other stuff? Yeah, absolutely. But I think right now, I mean, that's kind of what we're chatting about, right? So,
Yeah.
What else you got, man? Because
No, I was just gonna say, like, it's amazing, what you've just, been talking about, and I find it incredible, like you said, that you've kind of overcome all these different things happening in your life, and like you said, like, for alcoholism and your family, and from what you're doing now and what you've overcome, it's pretty inspiring. And I think, like you said, we all kind of are here for this kind of, like, we're all here for a purpose. And, regardless of what's happening, in our lives, we have like a choice, of who we want to be and what we want to do. And, you made that choice to, change, and, you're now making like a positive difference through what you're doing, and you kind of want to, have that positive impact on other people. And I think it's really, really motivating. And I think, like, as well, it's so true that, regardless of what people go through, and like you said, you're helping young people from different backgrounds, in communities, that it gives them a chance to, develop and change as well through, like, the programs. And there are lots of people out there as well who, probably been in trouble with the police, or they might have, parents who, are quite negative, and they, like, might not feel like they belong, or might not feel like they haven't got any direction in life. Do you know what I mean? And those kind of programs, and from what you do, will kind of put them on that kind of road to kind of develop them and get them to where they want to be. And I think that's so key in today's society. People having that chance to be given that field to go into something and change and develop. And as well, I think with the experience you said with you, you had that kind of realization where you changed. And I mean that's incredible. And I think sometimes it's crazy what happens sometimes in certain events, and how they can change you and the way you think. And I mean, something happened to me when I was 13, 14, and I fell through a roof on a skylight. And from that, I had a realization where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't hang around with these certain people. And I ended up having PTSD and anxiety and depression, like, after that. And I was like 13, 14. But it's weird because, like, that thing happened to me, and I changed from that. And, there was events that happened with you that kind of, really made you shift and change as well. I mean, especially when, when you said your wife said, we're going to, you're up against probably a divorce, possible divorce, and you're going through all those emotions, and to change that around, and to find, that faith, to seek something, positive and new. I think it's pretty incredible. And like I said, what we're doing, like, right now, and what you said, we're all here for a purpose, and we're all here to, like, do something. And if we can, like, serve other people, make a positive difference, and kind of do the things that we enjoy, it's I think it's a really good way to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you, I couldn't have done this without certain things happening, right? I wouldn't be who I am today without those events occurring. I wouldn't have been able to see where my flaws were without going through the fire, right, and becoming purified on the outside of that. I have. There are some people that were on my side. There were some people that were in my corner. There were some leaders that I really gravitated to, and as they started influencing me positively, it became the reality that not everybody that I was putting myself around was the wrong people. I was just so focused on being the wrong person, right? So it's like, you know, when we look in the mirror, I can say, man, I look good today. I may not feel it. I may not mean it, but I could say it. So the question is, how many people are out there right now that say, man, I look good today, but they're not telling themselves the truth, right? Because they know inside there's something ugly, or there's something dying, or there's something that's totally against what their moral value is, and they still do it anyway. You know, it is so amazing that we can, you know, we said it earlier, it's so amazing that we can have this conversation across the earth, right? Where I'm in the US and you're over there in the UK, and there will probably be more people from the UK watching this going, how do I contact Eric? Or I can resonate with Eric and his story. Then there will be people here in the US that go, that might say, my ego is so big that I can't, no, there's nothing wrong with me. Right? I think that's what's really, there's so much pride involved with this. There's so much internal, like, wanting to be something, truly something that we're just not, you know, that we, honestly, the moment that I was able to tear it down, realize it, look at myself humbly and go, okay, yep, this is where I'm wrong. You know, since everything has occurred, do I still lose my temper sometimes? Sure. You know, I do. But do I go back behind it and go, you know what? I was wrong. Right? It's okay to say you're wrong. As a matter of fact, you'll probably feel a whole lot better when you admit that you're wrong half the time. You know, it's okay to say, you know what? You know, did I lie today? Ask yourself that question. Did I lie today? And if I lied, why did I lie today? What was I trying to hide? You know, lying's not part of who I am anymore. You know, before it would be like I'd white lie so much of my life, you know, just to make myself look so much better. But for what? You know, there's a book out there. I forgot the guy's name.
I can
But
Google
it's called
it.
the subtle. It's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Bad Word at the end of that, right?
Oh yeah. I know. I've seen the cover of it.
Yeah, it's an orange cover, got black letters on it.
Mark Manson.
There you go. Here's the thing, right? That book brings into perspective the fact that we just shouldn't care what other people think. You know what I mean? Like for what? Why do I care what's thought about me, right? When I know that the impact is going to affect somebody, what number one, what gives you the right to judge what I'm doing? What gives you the right to say, you know what, that's not the right thing to do when it might help someone, right? Or, you know what, I've known Eric for 36 years. He's never going to change. I hear that often. I've known Eric for years. There's no way that he's changed. And then they see me now and they go, wow, you know, this dude really changed. Like wow, you know, and some people accept him and some people can't. And that's okay. Yeah. It's okay to not be accepted by who you are now. And it's okay to be accepted for who you are now. You know? Yeah, but I mean, it's just amazing that those things happen. It's crazy. And all I want to do, and I said this to you earlier today too, right? You and I can look at each other and go, yeah, all we want to do is serve. And there's going to be people out there that look at you and go, they can't be telling the truth, right? 99% of the things that I do, right, when it comes to doing this stuff, is free. 99%. The only things, honestly, that, you know, I'll talk at symposiums, and I don't ask for anything other than for, you know, right now for you to just, you know, donate to my mission work. That's all I'm asking, right? You know, everything has a price. Don't get me wrong, but none of that money comes to me. All that money goes to the mission work, because the only way for me to launch my nonprofit is with funds. And if I don't have funds, I can't launch. And if I can't launch, I can't serve the community that we need to serve, right? You know, wearing a uniform every day, that supports my family, right? And right now I support my local church by I'm interning with them, and I work there for free, right? And that is to help me learn some of the organizational side of things. But if I can do, you know, one consulting gig, or if I can do, you know, one talk, you know, let's do it, you know, and let's raise the funds so that we can then turn around and put it back into the community where we need it so desperately, in homeless young teens that are overdosing on prescription medication.
Yeah.
Right? Why are we missing this? And I know it's not just here in the U.S. that's like that. I've been over in the UK, and I know the majority of kids right now that are dying from either heroin or prescription medications is between the age of like 14 and like 26.
Yeah.
You know, there's a very small window. And I mean, I can I guarantee that number? Probably not. But what I can do is I can say that that's probably the majority. You know, but I mean, that's really why I do the things I do now.
Yeah.
Is to get awareness, conversate with people, bring people to the truth that, you know, through life, leadership, and in your career, I'm here to help those people lead, inspire, and drive through all of their challenges. That's what we do. That's what we try to do.
No, I totally agree. And I think it's that ripple effect, isn't it? You know, by doing positive things, it has that kind of ripple effect onto the next thing. And you could like meet somebody through what you're doing, which then knows somebody, then can connect them to you. And, you know, by you helping other people, they're going to then change their lives and do something. And then they can probably, you know, do the same as well. And I think that's the kind of thing that we should be doing, isn't it? And like you said, you know, it's non-profit in what you're doing, and you know you're doing it for a good cause and reason. And you know, people will want to put funds into that if it's going to have, you know, positive effect. And I think, you know, what you're doing, it is. And I think like as well, when you mention about how people can judge other people, or we can kind of think to ourselves, oh, I'm not going to do that because of what that person's going to think. And I think we can kind of all at some stage kind of think that. And it's that kind of like being aware of that, I think. Because I mean, I didn't do a podcast. I didn't do this podcast for like 2 years. I wanted to do it 2 years ago, but I didn't do it because I was worried about people going to think about it. And so that's kind of where I struggled with it, you know, for a long time. But I think I just kind of was like, you know, I've had enough of holding on to that. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes, like I said, things come up for me. Like recently, I bought this. I won't go too much off the topic, but I bought this. I've got into basketball, American basketball, and I bought a Lakers hat, and it's bright purple and yellow. And I've not worn it out yet because I'm like, are people going to look at me strange because it's like bright purple and yellow? But I mean, I'm just like, well, it's what I like. Why should I care what other people think? You know, that's a little tiny like example, but it's so important, I think, like you said, just to like be yourself and just like you said, own things as well. Because you mentioned being responsible for what's going on and not lying as well. Like, be honest with yourself, isn't it? Because it's like if you're being honest with yourself and you know you love yourself, and you have a good relationship with yourself, you then can carry that forward to other people.
Yep. I'll tell you, man, self-awareness. You know, it's kind of hard to say things now, right? Because everything's almost been trademarked by Gary Vee, right? But self-awareness, kindness, all of the positive attributes in life, they're everything that we need to truly do to bring this world back to where it should be, you know. And we're not going to do it today. We're not going to do it tomorrow. You know, it takes a generation to change an environment. You know, Can you change your environment in your house overnight? No. It could take some time, but when you get a group of individuals moving right in the same direction, you could change the environment that much faster, one step at a time, right? So that's really where our lives have to take a turn and move in that direction. Brother, I launched a podcast in March of 2018. Never did one thing with it. I signed up for it, never even had a conversation on the thing, right? You saying that you've been waiting 2 years to do this, I applaud you, right? Because it takes guts to not be judged. Now, you just may have made me change my mind and jump back in and start doing the podcast again because and have you on as my first guest. I think because it's like, it's not about, I'm sorry. I scroll Instagram and you see, buy this, do this, 101 tricks to become an Instagram millionaire. I don't want to be rich in financial. I want to be rich in life. To me, brother, when I get out the military and I'm doing my mission work, that will fill me more than simply putting another dollar in my pocket. Because I can see the tangible result in another person, to watch them now give that same effort back to someone else.
Yeah.
When you do what we are doing, when you do what you're doing, you specifically, what you're doing right now, it is priceless. Because a euro, an American dollar, we could light them on fire and they burn away. But the everlasting impact that you're doing right now to spread word about living a good life will be priceless when it's repeated. And I hope that gives you some sort of positivity for today. Because you're doing great things too. You really are. So I thank you for doing what you're doing now. I really do. So.
No, I appreciate it, Eric. I really means a lot. Really does mean a lot to me. And I appreciate your kindness and what you're saying. And I would love also, to be your first guest on your podcast, and I do it, you could do it in your car. I do mine in my car most of the time.
That's where I am right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I'm really humbled and grateful, to connect with you and, to be having this conversation. And, like you said, I think, like you said, it's kind of priceless, isn't it? By connecting with people and doing this, talking about things that are meaningful, and the kind of possible change that can have as well. Because we all kind of, you don't know who's out there, what they might be feeling or going, something going on with them, and they watch this or listen to this, and then they can take something from it. And I think if you did a podcast, it'd be amazing, and I'd be happy to be on it.
I'll let you know.
Yeah.
I'll hit you up on your DM when that's going down, bro.
Yeah. When you have time, you know what I mean. But
I make time for good things, bro.
Yeah. No, same here. And no, I think it's great. It's great talking to you, and I applaud you in what you're doing. And I think, like you said earlier, you're doing what you got to do, for your family and yourself and things. But you're striving for other things as well. And like you said, you're just wanting to have that positive impact. And I think, like I said, that's one of those things that's priceless, isn't it? Because we all kind of have that ability to do that, if we choose to, and the effects which it has on other people is pretty powerful. As well, I just thought of something now. Like,
do you have any favorite books? Do you have any favorite books that you read or anything?
Oh man, I read almost. Now I do a lot of audiobook. But I'm in books. I'm in books like every other day. You know, driving to work. I drive about an hour to work, so I'm in audiobook, and that's where the subtle art of not giving it just came in. I was listening to that. Yes, I am a man of faith, but sometimes we just got to look through what's being written in that book and understand the meaning behind it. You know, I just got done doing a teaching on the 5 dysfunctions of a team from Pat Lencioni. You know, I got, you know, what other books? I could probably go down the list, but that's a really good one. John Maxwell. I mean, I've done so much stuff with John Maxwell, but honestly, if you want to read a life-changing book, and even if you're not, you know, even if someone's not faith-based or whatever, the Purpose-Driven Life from Rick Warren. If you could read through, like, you know, that's a, you know, he talks about faith in that. But if you could read through it and kind of do the work that's inside the book, the actual work projects and the answers and questions and all that stuff that's in there, I believe that that's really what started driving the internal change, to see the self-awareness, you know, within me. And, you know, there's that. I mean, if you're talking about marketing, obviously, like Gary Vee, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Jab, 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 Right Hook was a good book from him. Crush It was another good book. Honestly, Crush It was really what started me to kind of look at doing the online market stuff. But I mean, that's just a couple. I mean, I could get you a list of everything I've read in the last 6 months, and you wouldn't be able to, you know, you'd have 2 or 3 Word docs filled with books, man. It's crazy, you know? So.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I think like books are important. I mean, I've started to get into books recently. I've got lots of books in my closet, you know, that I've bought over like, you know, months. But I did read Crush It like recently, and I think it is kind of advanced from when he's written it, but like the kind of core concepts of what he was saying, you know, pretty important. And what other book? Jab Jab Right Hook as well. That's quite. I've not read that yet, but I think we take a lot from books. And like you say, you know, you have to kind of read it and kind of apply it to your life, don't you? Kind of, you know, people read books and think, oh, I'm gonna change. And it's like, oh, what you said, you kind of got to get involved. You know, apply the inside of the book to your life, haven't you? What you said.
Yeah. So and I would give this as any tip to anybody that's out there that you know, for instance, right, the 5 dysfunctions of a team. It talks about trust. Talks about trust, conflict, commitment, accountability, and results, right? So all of those things are wrapped up in this book. So what I did was, with a group of individuals, I take this book, right, and I break it down into a 5-week system, right? And I'll say, hey, this week we're going to talk about trust, right? The next week we're going to talk about commitment, then, you know, or conflict and a commitment. And so what I do with every single book that I read, and I challenge everybody to do this. You take that book and you make it a study book. You take it and you make it a textbook, right? Because then what you do is, like, for instance, what you can do, if you read Crush It, right? In every chapter, there's a lesson to learn from that. Take that out, whatever that lesson is. So, for instance, Patrick Lencioni's book, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, I took trust out. And I said, okay, the specific talking point in there, they talk about lack of trust and how it affects teams, right? So we say, okay, here's a lack of trust. How does it affect teams? And then you have that conversation with yourself or with a group. What are the negative effects by it? What are the positive effects by it? How do we then overcome the lack of trust? And then you take that, right? So you take that question, you answer that question, and then what you're doing, you're building a technique that can then go, hey, listen, I just read this book. Here's what it said. Here's what I learned. And now here's a teaching point. So you're learning that book. You're making that book your own. And then you're teaching from that book to then help others understand how to bridge the gap. Now, mind you, it's opinionated, but if you drive it home with fact, you got a good technique there to really just walk with people through a process. You know?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm doing that with like 150 people. We're teaching that right now, that book, and we're in week number 4, right? So
Wow.
every day
Awesome.
we're teaching on it, and then we kind of talk about it, and then by the end of that week, we do a roll-up, and then at the end of the session, at the end of the 5 weeks, we do a core roll-up, and that core roll-up basically takes all of those things that we learned, and we do a huge Q&A. What did we learn from that? What did we take away from that? What are some highlights of that? You know? So
yeah, that's awesome. I think that's important, isn't it? You can take it and then kind of break it down, and then kind of implement those parts to it. No, that's awesome. I mean, as well, like to before we kind of like round up, like do you have any like role models or anything like that? Would you say?
Wow.
Whether that's you know, friends, family, or anyone who's like, you know, professionally, you know.
I'll tell you right now. When I was 36 years old, I didn't know what a role model was. Right.
Yeah.
I had a very close buddy of mine. His name is Jason. Jason Nutt was his name. He's in the military with me. He looked at me and he said, "I don't care what you did in your past. That means nothing to me. Let's walk through to your future." And that from that moment was when a lot of things that occurred made me who I am now. You know, it was just that one little leadership technique or that one little leadership tip. I don't care what you did in your past. Let's walk through to your future. That
That's
means
powerful,
right?
Yeah.
Which means that we'll live in the present, right? And we'll build you from what you've been through, and we'll live in the present. We'll keep on moving, right? No need to look back, right? That door is closed. What can we get back? What can we really get from the past, other than the reminders of how bad we were or how good we were? What we need to do is we got to live in that moment of the presence to say, what can I do to fix what was broken to lead to a better? You know, and that's where we're at, man. That's kind of what we're doing. And I mean, that really is a big model of what we do too, you know?
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome, Eric. And I think that's really powerful as well. And I think that's something that we should all kind of ask ourselves, you know, we should all kind of like think like that, you know, and to move forward to where we're going. Where can people find you on like social media and things like that?
I'm on Instagram, OvercomeHQ, OvercomeHQ. I'm on Twitter, Overcome_HQ. I'm on Facebook, same thing, OvercomeHQ. You know, OvercomeHQ.com. I got some blog stuff there, and you know, it's just, I mean, you can find me everywhere, really. Just search it and you'll find it. And I mean, I'm a man of many mistakes, but that's all right.
We all make mistakes.
Okay. I'm good with it. Let's just keep going, man. And you know, so turning points, man.
No, that's it, exactly. And I think that's how we kind of learn and grow, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And you know, like I said, owning up to those mistakes and moving forward. And but no, like Eric, it's been a pleasure talking to you. And
absolutely, man.
You know, I will stay in touch, and I will basically I'll put your details in the podcast for you, and I'll put it on social media for you, and I'll share what you do as well, and I'll put that out there.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that, and I'll extend my hand to you here shortly. But I'll hit you behind the scenes, and we'll chat about
of course,
maybe some more collaborative work and maybe something else. I don't know, man.
Always
the bigger things, brother. All right.
Yeah, no, that's it, man.
Awesome, man. Hey, thank you very much for this opportunity. I love it. It's great. I love it. I love what you're doing, bro. So stay in contact, all right?
Yeah, sure, man. Cheers, Eric. Really means a lot.
Cheers. Talk to you later.
Easy.
Bye.
Cheers.